And we are live. Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
And if this is your first time with the Content Swap Podcast, this is a podcast in which we engage with each other's content for the week, and then we talk about it on this here podcast. We haven't recorded in a while. I kind of forgot how to do this. So welcome back. Happy to be back here on the Content Swap Podcast. Before we dive into this week's content, we like to give a little life news update. So it's been a while, so go ahead and take it away. What's been new in your world over there?
I don't even know because it's been like 12 years since we last recorded. But life update. This past weekend had it was like a dance recital / video shoot. As you all know, I've been taking pole dancing classes, which has been a really great form of fitness for me and really fun and empowering. But if you don't know, I'm quite introverted. And so I was kind of nervous. I was actually really nervous about the video shoots because all the people in the studio are there. They're cheering you on and everything. And I was just very scared to perform in front of everybody. But it went great. It went well. I got to do 2 takes that were, I think, pretty good. And so I was very proud of myself for putting myself out there like that. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. You can do anything. Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. Believe it.
In terms of content, I honestly don't even recall what's happened over the past 2 weeks. The 2 things that I can recall is Botany Manor came out, and I have been waiting for this game for ages to be released. It's basically a puzzle game that's like centered around you're a botanist and you're at this like giant mansion and you have to like figure out you gather seeds and you have to figure out how to basically make the plant grow, and it requires you to look at all these different clues. Some of the puzzles are quite hard and difficult and like have taken me hours to figure out. Some are very straightforward and it's very easy. It kind of goes back and forth difficulty wise, which is really fun, and it's been a blast just kind of like whenever I'm bored, picking it up and solving 2 puzzles and then setting it down and going to the next thing. And the only other thing that I wanted to mention was I finally, all the book people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, girl, I finally read Fourth Wing.
Oh my gosh, really?
Are you being sarcastic?
Yeah, I'm being very sarcastic.
Okay, let me tell you, if you're
that?
If you're in the book world, everybody read Fourth Wing ages ago because it's like the new Hunger Games, the new it's like the new series. That and ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which
Avatar?
ACOTAR. Yeah.
That's the Court of Thorns and Roses series?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that one.
So I read that. I read the first book of that. Have not continued the series, which I really need to. But finally read Fourth Wing. If you don't know what Fourth Wing is, it's basically a book about these young 20-somethings who are kind of, once they get to that age, they kind of take their career path, and basically they can be dragon riders, they can be scribes, they can be healers, all this sort of thing. And it's like basically everyone's functioning to support one another as they like go into wars. And I guess there was like a really big war that happened previously. They won. And so now it's just like, making sure that the defenses are all good and stuff like that. So main character really wanted to be a scribe, but her mom is like the president, basically. She like runs the whole shebang and was like, you will be a dragon rider. So it's pretty much about her trying to just survive, because the survival rate of their like class is very low. People just die all the time. But also she ends up forming a romantic relationship with a guy who like wanted to kill her because her mom killed his family, basically. So it's got the romance, it's got the fantasy, it's got the action, pretty interesting. I enjoyed the first book. I hear that the second book is terrible. So I'm like, I'm going to read it. And then I'm going to hope that the books after that are good. Because that sucks to go be like the number one book to your second book being the worst. Because everyone had such high expectations. So yeah, so.
When you described that book to me, I thought it sounded like How to Train Your Dragon with sex in it.
Yeah, I think,
and it still sounds like that.
Yeah, it very much does. It's interesting. It's like it's not just that they ride dragons; they also like get powers from their dragon. Like their dragon passes on powers, so each person like develops some special ability that they can do. So she like wields lightning and like can use that to kill people basically. So it's pretty interesting.
How soon did the second book come out after the first one?
Good question. I want to say it was a pretty quick turnaround. I think it was.
So do you think it was like this was a big hit, write the sequel as quickly as you can? Or was it like here's what I know I want to do for the second one, and that's why it was able to be turned around so quickly?
That's a good question. I actually asked, so I like have people that I know are authors, and I had met with a few of them just to learn more about like what it's like to be an author. And I had asked that question. I was like, do people who like have series go into, when they like sell their book, say like this will be a series, or is it just like it does well and then you turn it into a series? And I think that if I remember the author correctly, it's usually that you come into it knowing you want it to be a series. Now, I don't know if that means you need to have, and I think she might have said that like sometimes they want you to have like the first 2 books done or something like that. I could be wrong.
At least a treatment for the first few.
Right. I could be wrong, so I'm sorry if any authors are listening and they're like, that's not how it works. But I feel like I remember her saying something like that. So I believe, in my own opinion, this could be totally wrong. I'm just speculating. I would imagine that this author probably had an idea of what the second book would look like. I think, because from what I have heard from people, why they didn't like it is that like the romance was very, intense in the first one. And like, it was like, you don't really get to the romance part till like the latter half of that book. And like when it hits, it hits. And I think people were expecting that to just continue in the second. And from what I've heard, the romance kind of takes a back seat in the second, and it's more of just like story building, I guess. And I think people were upset
I'm not
about
here
that.
For that.
Yeah, people were like,
we
want the spicy, like, especially with Akatar having existed, and that's a super spicy book and just continues to get spicy, as far as I know. I think people were kind of expecting that same thing, and that's why they were like, wait a second, like, we don't really care about they don't care about the story, but like we really still want the spicy stuff, which is fair because I don't know. In the times where it wasn't like the romance wasn't the focal point, I was getting a little bit bored and kind of like, all right, like I don't really care about her training that much, as long as, now if she's like near death, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? Is she gonna live? But other than that, it's kind of like, give me the romance. So, yeah.
Nice. What else is, any other content?
Not that I can remember, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you.
Okay. Well, yeah, for me, when was this? 2 weeks ago, I was a part of organizing the Charlottesville Design Week in Virginia.
You said where we live.
Charlottesville, Virginia. We don't live there. We live somewhere.
We live in Wisconsin.
So, but specifically Charlottesville, I wanted to go be a part of their design week. So, yeah, flew into Charlottesville from Wisconsin and helped with that. yeah, so I'm friends with some designers here, and so we kind of got together over the last 3 months to put the event together, and we had workshops, we had talks, we had film screenings, we had open houses, we had a design marathon. It was just a ton of fun, and it kind of made me realize a few things about my skill set and that I know more than I give myself credit for, but still have a lot of room to grow. But yeah, it just kind of made me reflect on some of my own personal strengths in a very positive way. And I also got to meet a lot of cool people in the process. So yeah, overall, really enjoyed the experience. Got to make some pretty good memories and make some pretty great friends. And I hope to be a part of the organizing committee next year.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was like a big thing. That was like 2 weeks ago. So that was kind of part of why we took so long to put out a new episode. It's actually been 3 weeks. I just checked. Not 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So, yeah, I think just like with that looming in the air, that kind of like put things off for a little bit. And then after that, it was just kind of like, I don't know. We were just having a hard time like sitting down to watch these movies.
Yeah, it's just been crazy the past few weeks. I think, and I feel like we're both trying to figure out new routines.
Yeah, after design week, I decided to get into a new routine. And yeah, I think we're both on that right now.
Yeah.
I started exercising in the morning as of last week, consistently every morning of the week, not the weekend. So, and I got up at 6:30 this morning and exercised. Usually I would get up in the morning and play some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but instead I exercised. That feels like growth.
Yeah, it is. Proud of you. I oddly got up at like 6:45, 6:50 on my own, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. But then I went back to sleep.
Wow.
I'm like, it's too early.
What a revelation.
I was just like proud because you get up early, and sometimes I'm a little jealous. I'm like, I wish I woke up naturally early because I love mornings, and I hate when I wake up late and don't have a morning, you know?
Yeah, same. I love the morning. I love having the time.
I know. You get a nice, quiet, peaceful.
So, like, yeah, I wasn't playing Final Fantasy. Like, I wasn't playing video games first thing in the morning anymore. But what that ended up turning out, what this ended up looking like was like, yeah, I exercised every morning. But then when it came weekend time, I didn't want to do anything but play video games, which honestly is That's okay. Fine, I feel like I earned it. So, yeah.
Also, I didn't mean to say like, yeah, progress. You're not playing video games now. I didn't mean to say it like that. I just know what your goals are. Yeah. I know what your goals are. And so I'm just proud that you're acting on your goals, you know?
Yeah. Well, that being said, I am getting really close to finishing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think as of last night, I have 98 hours logged on this game, which is like so many to not be done, you know? Mm-hmm. But I love the game super duper much. So it's like, okay, it's okay for it to be that long, and I can't think of. Well, I mean, when Zelda came out last year, Tears of the Kingdom, I think I played more in a shorter span of time than I did this game, but I can't think of very many RPGs that I've played that are this long. The only other comparison I have would be Persona 5, which took me 120 hours over the course of like 9 months to finish. So for this game to have not even been out for 2 months, and I've played like 98 hours, is, for me, pretty impressive, but also like, dang, a lot of time. But the game is great, and it's like the things that I was praising about it 3 weeks ago, I mean, yeah, are all great, but it's like now I've got so many other things to praise about it. It's really wild how it just kind of keeps opening up and like presenting new layers and things, and it never gets old. It's constantly keeping things fresh and fun, and I love it. It's like it's such an ideal experience as a game player when you know you're going to be sitting down for this massive RPG that's going to take hours and hours and hours and hours, and you're really interested in the story and the core gameplay, that it provides you with so much variety to keep you entertained through that 98 hours, to where it doesn't feel like you spent 98 hours. You just had fun, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I really love the game for that reason.
I want to ask our listeners, do you all like Cloud? Because I think he sucks. I think he's the worst. He's a butt.
Cloud being the protagonist of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. I want to know what people's opinions are of Cloud.
He's a blonde, spiky-haired emo boy. He's not even my favorite character, but I think he's a good protagonist in that he's kind of silent, so you can project yourself onto him a little bit more as a white male. But at the same time, like it's the fact that he's so like cold and brooding that when he says something like goofy or out of pocket, it's actually like pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Or like, I finished this mini game last night, and it was like, and it's at the game's fictional amusement park, the Gold Saucer, and everybody's like congratulating him for winning. They're like, "You did so great." And some dancers pop up and they start dancing, and then they kind of are egging on Cloud to do some dancing, and he's like, "All right," and he does like a full-blown breakdance routine, like with handstands and everything, and I was like, this is amazing. Because like he's so emo all the time. Yeah. So for him to do something so uncharacteristic like that is like, I love it.
Well, maybe I need to see those moments to appreciate him more. Because every time you're playing and I look at him, I'm like, oh, what a jerk.
Yeah, he's got like a very subtle, dry humor from time to time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and when it happens, it's pretty funny.
I mean, I'm basing my judgments off of like some quick glances up.
Yeah, you don't even
at the screen.
You're not even getting audio because I got my headphones on.
Right. So this is all just based on his face expressions at the moment I look up, and every time I see him, he's just so cold.
Yeah. Well, I will say, despite really loving the game, I am kind of looking forward to being done. I would like to finish it sooner rather than later, but I also, that feeling is a double-edged sword because I know I'm gonna miss it so much when I'm done. Like I'm really gonna be like, oh man, like I wish I was still playing that game. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna suck. But it's like, well, I know I still have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth to finish. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I will have no shortage of things to do. And I really like a Dragon. So, I am looking forward to going back to playing that game. But, my game playing will probably not be as hardcore as it is right now. So we'll see. Aside from, I went and saw the new Civil War movie. It was, basically what I've been telling people about this Civil War movie is that the marketing is super yucky and is just kind of like fear-mongering in order to get you interested in watching it. But the movie itself is actually really good, and it kind of just takes the politics and the why did this happen out of it, and it just kind of focuses on the what would happen in this hypothetical scenario. It's not asking you to pick an ideological side as we know that political experience as it is now. It's really just like, yeah, the president is evil, so like what would happen?
Evil president.
Yeah, like I would say the sides are not so gray, I guess, as they are actually in real life. It feels a bit more black and white in the movie, but the main characters are not there to really have a side. They're there to just document it because they're photojournalists. But yeah, the president in that movie is clearly a bad guy. So yeah.
Got you.
It's wild.
I believe it. I am not interested.
I don't
I'm
blame
like,
you.
life is depressing as it is. I don't think I
blame
want
you.
that in my content too.
Yeah. I was just saying it was pretty good. Like, you know, it like this movie is. It's like watching, you know, White House Down or something like that, or Olympus Has Fallen.
Is that
it's
supposed to sell me on it?
No. But that's to help me make my point that it's like it's not trying to it's
have a message.
well the content of no, it does have a message, but the content of the movie is not really trying to like scare you or make you feel uneasy in the current political climate like the marketing would have you believe you're supposed to be. When you watch it, it's just another you know, hey, things going on over at the White House and in America kind of thing. Like, I mean, I guess, but
I'm
then
like,
in
but
this
how do you
case, the
separate the two?
terrorists are not terrorists. Like in Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down, it's like, oh, terrorists can't, you know, like in this case, it's us. But it's like, which to me made it just more interesting. And it also really highlighted the role of like war photojournalists, and like what they actually do, but then allowing them to like, you know, do that profession in America allows you to be like very reflective. But it also, it tells the story through this like neutral perspective of just documenting everything and not necessarily being on a side. They're just there to observe and like, hey, don't shoot them because they're press.
I mean, even if it's not like saying something about what side you're on, I don't know. I feel like I would just have a hard time viewing it objectively. Like I would feel like I'd have a hard time not making the parallels between that and our real life. Like,
I mean, I think it's very easy to make some parallels, specifically with the president character.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like it's like the president and, you know, the army versus like the Western forces of Texas and California, which is just like not a thing that would ever happen. So like it is a bit like far-fetched and fictional in that regard.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
I don't know. Well, I don't plan on seeing it.
Yeah, no, I don't. I get it.
Yeah.
I'll just say like it just seems like it's a dumb, yucky movie on the surface, but then
it gives Purge energy.
Yeah, exactly. It gives Purge energy in a very bad way.
Yeah.
Like it's trying to take advantage of our worst tendencies as human beings.
Yeah.
And the movie itself is not that.
Gotcha.
The movie itself is actually like good and interesting and makes you think, but not about like the current political climate, because I already think enough about that.
Right.
It just makes me think about just other stuff.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway. Oh, and Charlottesville gets a shout out in the movie like multiple times.
But we don't care about that because we don't live there.
We don't live there, yeah. Did I tell you about that though?
You did.
Okay, yeah.
You said everyone in the theater was like, woo.
Yeah.
And they mentioned Shenandoah or something and hiking.
Yeah, they mentioned hiking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything about that.
Which is strange that people in Wisconsin would be doing that. That's
so funny. I'm gonna start telling people that. Yeah, I'm in Wisconsin. Cool.
Anyway, yeah, that's it with me.
Awesome. Well, should we jump in?
Yeah, we should jump in.
Okay. I think you're first.
Oh, I am first. Okay. So I was assigned a movie called Hardball, starring Keanu Reeves, that came out in 2001. Keanu Reeves' character, I don't know any of the characters' names, so we're just going to forego names, except, well, I do know that there are children in this movie, and I mostly know their names, so they'll get character names used. But yeah, Keanu's just Keanu. So Keanu's character has a gambling problem, but his buddy, who works at Smith & Stevens Securities, decides that he's going to pay him $500 a week to coach a little league team. And in doing so, he develops a connection with some kids. He needs the $500 a week because he owes money to some loan sharks, So he's got to pay some people back, but he's got to pay that guy back with that guy's money. So he owes that guy money, and so he owes everybody money basically. And he needs to pay this one guy $750 a week, or else, bad stuff's going to happen. And his buddy says, well, I'll give you $500 to coach Little League. And he goes, done. So, which is random. It's super random. This movie's a little bit of a mess. I'm not going to lie. He coaches Little League, and the kids are super adorable. And it's not really about the kids playing baseball. The focus is not at all on baseball and their capacity to play baseball. The focus is on the fact that it's about how baseball gives them an escape from their lives. It's the act of doing something that is not their regular lives, and baseball just happens to be that outlet. So it's not really a baseball movie, at all. Even though there are some baseball scenes, but the movie doesn't really do anything to try to get you to care about whether they are winning or losing. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the end, they go to a championship game, but you don't even see them play the game. It just kind of it's let's go play ball, and then it cuts to them with all their trophies, and it goes to the end. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's about the positive influence that he and these kids are having on each other, and that relationship. And I gotta say, Keanu owes a bunch of people money, and so how that problem resolves itself is that he bets $12,000 of money he does not have to pay off his debts, which he succeeds in doing. But the fact that he just kept gambling to get out of his debts does not show that he really learned a lesson or earned his way out of that problem,
Yeah, that's very fair.
So it's just the fact that he was successful and then decided to stop and said, no, these kids are important, that he was able to stop gambling and stay out of trouble, because his buddy wanted to keep gambling, but
which I don't think addictions just resolve themselves that easily. I'm done.
Right. And when he got his money, he was yeah, I got better things to do than help your stupid baseball team. But then he was no, I'm gonna help you. I love you guys. Here are New Jerseys. It's It really, the more I think about it, it's it's a total mess.
Yeah.
They double down on the stereotypes and the hardship in this movie. They keep mentioning 24/7 that the baseball little league team is in the projects, and it's a little too us and them kind of all the time. And yeah, Keanu is just inconsistent. Sometimes he's a nice guy, sometimes he's a bad guy. The movie's just kind of weird, and the script is sometimes incomprehensible in terms of like what's going on with Keanu and his sports betting. It's like there's a whole secret betting society. They're like, oh yeah, Finks at the cement plant has a minimum buy-in for $2,000 on Thursday, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's just a little all over the place. And Keanu's wearing a leather jacket in like every scene.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, the kids in the movie are quite adorable. You've got a young Michael B. Jordan in this movie. Mm-hmm. You've got a young kid who I think went to go do all of that after this. You've got just a bunch of other cute kids. You got Kofi and I believe his little brother, G-Baby. Mm-hmm. And G-Baby is super adorable, and he's like cute. 8 years old, and he's not even supposed to be on the team because he's not old enough. And
he's so tiny, and he's so small.
He's super tiny, super small, but you know, he plays and he like wins the game at one point, and everybody like loves him for that. But Michael B. Jordan was like 2 weeks too old to still be on the team, so he kind of had to get kicked off of the team. So let me break the numbers down for you real quick. They start the movie with 7 kids. Then they jump up to 2 kids.
Jump up 2 more kids.
To 10 kids. Yeah. They get more kids. They start with 7 kids. Then they get to 10 kids. I kind of forgot which of those... Oh, it's like Kofi, G-Baby, and their friend Ray Ray get added to the team. So that brings it to 10 kids. And then they lose to... Oh, okay, wait, spoiler. So Michael B. Jordan is too old to be on the team, so he's no longer on the team. And then Kofi and G-Baby are on their way home after G-Baby just won the game, and they see like a gang of guys hanging out outside their building, and in that gang of guys is Michael B. Jordan's character, who's kind of like shaking their head at them like, don't be here right now. And basically a shootout ensues, and G-Baby ends up, the 8-year-old child ends up getting hit by a stray bullet, and he dies, and it's super sad. And then Keanu gives this like really touching speech about how G-Baby won the game and it made him a better person. And you know, that was the one part of the movie I was like, oh man. But the rest of it is a mess. Don't get me wrong. So like I said, they have 7 kids, and they're like, you need to have 9 kids. So then they get up to 10 kids. But then they lose 2. They lose G-Baby. They lose Michael B. Jordan. So now they're down to 8 kids. And the movie makes a point about, like, when they get to the championship game, they're like, guys, we only have 8 kids. And I was counting. The kids in every scene. I was like, okay, I count, like, when Kofi was with all of them, like, in the gymnasium saying, we want to play, I counted 8 kids. All right. And then they get to the game and they're like, guys, we only have 8 kids. We can't play. But then Kofi shows up at the last minute as if he's the 9th man, when in reality, I was counting, he was one of the original 8. So they just made up that there was an extra kid. That, like, I was fuming. I was like, what is this? Like, this is not... Kofi is not just showing up like he's the 9th man. Like, we don't have enough kids. We still have 8 kids. You did not just materialize one out of thin air. So, anyway, yeah, the movie's kind of a mess, but I guess they have enough players. And then, yeah, you see the kids get all the trophies. And, yeah, it just, in general, feels very exploitative of Black suffering. But, Keanu gave a really good speech, and G-Baby was a cute baby. And Diane Lane's also in the movie as their teacher, and
she's kind of irrelevant.
She's kind of irrelevant, but I do love me some Diane Lane.
Oh my gosh, silly.
Yeah, I think maybe, just thinking back, I think maybe their jerseys went up to 11 because it's like 1, 2, 3. You know, that goes.
Yeah.
So maybe, but as far as like the amount of kids that they had available in the scenes, it was 8. You're not fooling nobody.
That's so funny that you counted. I was not at all paying attention. I was like, sure, whatever.
I was like, wait, aren't they not going to have enough kids? Because I was like, oh, you had 7, then you had 10. I'm like, well, you just lost 2. Aren't you not going to have enough? And then they made a point of pointing it out. And then Kofi shows up. And I'm like,
The only time I was like, weird, like something was off to me was like, there was a kid who I feel like just showed up halfway through the movie. Wasn't he wasn't a part of the earlier
100%. I know exactly which kid you're talking about.
I was like, has he been here the whole time and I just didn't notice?
Well, so when they're in the auditorium telling Keanu that they want to play, I was looking at the kids and I was like, oh, okay, so we have a team of 9 kids or 10 kids, right? But we only actually get the names of 6 of them.
Yeah.
So there are just 4 kids that they could just be different actors throughout the movie and we'd be none the wiser.
Aren't paying attention. Yeah.
So, no, for sure. 4 kids that just get 0 screen time. They just kind of pop in and out.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie, like when I assigned it, I was like, oh, this is such a good movie. Like, he's going to really enjoy it. And then we were watching it and I was like, I remember this so differently. I was shook when we watched it. I was like, this is not great at all. But like you already said, the kids really make up for a lot of its downfalls. They're so adorable, so funny. Just like, they're just great. They're so fun. There's this one kid. His name is Jefferson. His character's name is Jefferson.
I like Jefferson.
I love Jefferson. I'm like, I just want to give him a hug. Like, oh my gosh, so adorable, so sweet. So yeah. So I mean, it's a problematic movie, 100%. But I do love watching the kids.
Yeah,
I love watching the kids.
Kids are cute.
Yeah.
We watched the trailer for the movie after the movie was over. And that just felt super icky.
Yeah.
It was like, this guy's got a sports gambling addiction, and now he's going to help kids in the projects.
I know, they kept saying it. Yeah. I'm like, stop.
She's like, but this group of kids are from the projects. And it's like, oh,
so bad.
Stop.
It was so bad. It was so tough to watch. I was like, oh, I did not remember that any of this existed. No, I only remember the baseball parts. So
yeah.
I apologize for saying that this was a great movie because it was very much a terrible movie.
Well, it wasn't that terrible, but it was a mess.
Yes. Okay, let me pull up my notes here.
Hit me with some facts.
I really don't have much facts, unfortunately. So this was the feature film debut of Michael B. Jordan. So that was his first movie. This movie premiered in the same weekend as another movie I had assigned you previously. Want to take a guess?
I have no idea.
It came out the same weekend as The Glass House, which also starred Diane Lane.
Oh, I do love me some Diane Lane.
And which one do you think was number 1 at the box office?
The Glass House, easy.
Hardball was number 1 at the box office, and Glass House was number 2.
Oh, it's because of Keanu.
Yeah,
100%. It's because of Keanu.
Not because of.
I would have thought that it would have been
I
would have thought it would have been The Glass House because it's like a horror movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Keanu.
Yeah, for sure. And the last fact I have, which is like not even that, I mean, it's kind of lame, but basically so there's a coach who coaches like their big rival team. It's like this team is so good. They have all the resources and everything.
Yeah, coach privilege.
Yeah, they've got like these fancy jerseys and all this stuff, and they're I think one of the kids say they're the best hitters. I don't know, I guess in the league. So anyways, that coach was the worst. He was like making up all these rules just to like get kids kicked off the team because they were playing too well. There's a kid who like loves to listen to music while he pitches, and he's really good at pitching because he kind of follows the rhythm of the song that he listens to. And so because he was pitching so good, the coach was like, he needs to take off those headphones. It's a safety violation or whatever. Anyways, that coach was a baseball coordinator for the film. So I'm guessing either he was a baseball player or coached before.
He probably came up with those lines. He said, wait a minute.
I know, he was the worst. Anyways, that's really all that I have. There wasn't too much on this movie.
Gotcha.
I think I will say, like, for me, because, you know, we talk about depictions of like a white savior in movies, right? I think for me, this one's not so bad. When if I compare it to something like The Blind Side,
oh yeah,
which is like very much so. Well, I mean, I know it's based on like a true story, but like, it's you watch it and you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, I would say Keanu's character has flaws in this movie.
Yeah,
and it's more so that the kids are helping him than he's helping the kids.
Exactly. That's how I feel. It's like, it wasn't about him bringing something to them. It was about them helping him.
Yes. And he just got them out of the house.
Right. So, I mean, I guess that's a positive. I mean, I won't say it's done perfectly, but, you know, compared to some of the other pieces of content, I think it's not the worst. That's in fair. Terms of that.
That's fair.
In other aspects, it is the worst. So yeah, that's all I've got.
Nice. All right. Well, that's everything that I've got as well. Awesome. I will say there was a very brief moment where Keanu's getting chased by some loan sharks, and this little sound effect plays. It's like a xylophone. It's like boom, 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 and it reminded me of a sound effect that I'd heard in like either Rush Hour or Three Ninjas or Ninja Turtles. I don't know what, but hearing that sound got me so inspired out of nowhere. And I came up with like a whole new video game idea.
Wow.
Just from hearing that one sound. It like triggered something, and it was like a bunch of dominoes just started falling.
Okay, so when you make that, I'm going to be credited, like, thanks to my wife who showed me the movie Hardball.
Yeah.
Which inspired me to make this
reminded
game.
me of a distinct late 90s alleyway sound effect.
That's pretty funny.
That got the creative juices flowing.
Hilarious. Okay, let's move on. I was assigned the movie Gattaca, which came out in 1997. And so this is a futuristic film in which society is all about eugenics. Scary. And basically building custom babies that are flawless. However, anyone who is conceived naturally are considered inferior and given the classification degenerate.
They're called invalids. Degenerate is specifically like a slang term that they use. Okay. But yeah, degenerate is stupid. I told some people about that, and they couldn't help but crack up over how silly it was.
I'll just get to my thoughts later.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is basically Ethan Hawke's main obstacle. So because he is an invalid, he's not allowed to pursue his astronomy dreams and go into space. But don't feel bad for him yet, because he comes up with a plan to take on the identity of a consenting, like, golden boy who's played by Jude Law, whose life took a turn for the worst after he became paralyzed from an accident. And so the two work together to land Ethan Hawke this dream job and help him achieve his dreams to go into space.
And he's doing so by pretending to be
Jude Law.
Jude Law, yes.
However, tension arises when Ethan Hawke's boss dies, and they suspect that it's an invalid who's infiltrated the workplace. And they find an eyelash hair, and when they run it through the system, it's a picture of Ethan Hawke. But for some reason, no one realizes that Ethan Hawke is Ethan Hawke, even though it clearly looks like Ethan Hawke.
He's taller now. He doesn't have glasses.
He looks nothing like Jude Law.
He's slicked back his hair now.
He looks absolutely
It's like
nothing
every
like
time
Jude
they scan their DNA, their picture comes up.
Yeah.
And so he's always got like some Jude Law DNA on him, you know?
Right. He like plants it in places.
Yeah,
in
he
case anyone
plants it in
swipes
places, or he's got like a secret pee bag.
Yeah.
Or he's got like a secret, you know,
Vial of blood.
vial.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
every time they do that, then this picture shows up that's like, it's actually a morphed photo of both of them put together.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
It looks like it. But yeah. Wild. I don't know why they don't suspect that it's him. Anyways, basically the whole rest of the movie, Ethan Hawke is doing everything he can to prevent being caught.
Even though he's not actually the person that killed his boss.
Right. Yeah, he didn't do it. And he ends up getting away with everything and going to space. So it all works out in the end.
True. But some other stuff happens in between.
Sure.
There's his brother. That's a big part of the movie.
Yeah.
Uma Thurman.
We can talk about that.
Okay. All right. I'm going to talk about his brother.
Well, we'll get to that later. My thoughts on this movie. I thought this was the dumbest movie I've ever seen. You hyped it up. You hyped it up to be this great masterpiece.
We both hyped up our movies this week, okay? We both thought our movies were great. Only to realize our movies were dumb.
Yes. They really were. We flopped this week.
We did flop. I will say, I still like my movie.
Okay. I will give you that. It was entertaining because I was cracking up at every single thing that happened. This movie takes itself so seriously.
So seriously, yeah.
Like the narration, every piece of it. He's like degenerate.
Yeah. This movie does not have a single funny bone in it.
No. Maybe Jude Law.
Jude Law has some wisecracks. Yeah. But like, yeah, all of the narration, as you said, is Ethan Hawke's character, and he takes everything super serious, and everybody around him takes everything super serious. So it's just super depressing, 24/7.
Yeah, I just like, but it's hilarious. It's like
okay. I didn't find it funny the first time I watched it, but yeah, watching you laugh at everything, I'm like, well, yeah, it is kind of stupid, isn't it?
So silly. It's just so like the premise is just super silly. Like
eugenics is no joke.
Eugenics is not a joke.
I think the premise is actually pretty interesting, or at least I did think it was interesting when I first watched it in 9th grade biology class.
Yeah,
but it's the degree,
the execution of it.
Yeah, it's the all serious all the time.
Yeah.
At all costs.
Yeah.
That make it very like, oh.
Yeah.
But like in that society, in the filmmaker's defense, in this kind of society, like, would there be room for joking when it's like, if he doesn't do this, then he'll never get to be an astronaut?
Like, you see how silly that sounds?
It's his dream.
I feel like there's a better way. Like, eugenics is not a funny thing, and like I feel like there was just a much better way to, if that's what you wanted to tackle in this film, is like the harmfulness of eugenics. You could have done it a different way and not kind of make it a joke by unintentionally.
They didn't intentionally make it a joke.
Yeah,
you know?
They didn't intentionally make it a joke, but just like the way it was executed made it a joke.
That being said, there are definitely groups of people who will watch this movie and buy into its seriousness. Like, that was me the first 2 times I watched it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I watched it with you and you had the capacity to laugh at it that the whole thing
like,
came
maybe
crumbling
I'm just
down.
like the worst. I don't know, but it was just kind of, I don't know, it was just silly.
I mean, it made me think about like how, we don't need, movies that are just stories, I'll say.
Yeah.
Stories that are just all serious all the time are not as fun as ones that are willing to have fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if it's fiction. Then it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Or I guess, I don't know. I feel like if it wanted to be a serious movie, I feel like the stakes needed to be higher, or just like
higher than like this man might
right,
not get
other
to be
than
an
like
astronaut.
he wants to go to space.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. That just feel I don't know. Just I didn't care. I was like,
Okay, so the problem is that you could not sympathize with Ethan Hawke's character.
I just didn't take it seriously.
Even after all of the work that he put in to pretend to be another man, he broke his own legs and grew like 3 inches.
Let me tell you,
just to get into this.
Oddly, I more so sympathize with Jude Law.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, I like much more cared about what would happen to Jude Law than I did Ethan Hawke.
All right.
Yeah. And then they just did weird stuff. Like they were like trying to make it seem like because he was an invalid or whatever, he would be this like serial killer, like more aggressive. I like totally did not understand that aspect of it. I was like, what does that have to like?
Well, somebody got murdered and an unregistered invalid came up, so it just became the easiest prime suspect because there's a clear prejudice against invalids in the movie.
Right. There's that part of it. But then like they made the character then like, I guess to make us think that maybe he did it to like be more aggressive. So like he like beat up that guy after the
there is, you're right. There is a part where he beats a dude up and Uma Thurman is on a date with him and is like,
what's up?
Yeah, she's like, what are you doing? But then she's like, I'll still go with you.
Yeah, also she made no sense either.
That was weird. I will admit, that was weird.
I was like, what are we doing? What are we actually doing? And why? And what does this add? So yeah, I don't know. It was just, he was doing the most. Like, I don't know. I mean, I feel bad that I was making fun of it because I know it was supposed to be a serious movie, but it was just silly. What did I keep saying? Oh, because like he was told when he was like young that like he would die. Yeah, that he had a heart condition.
That he was gonna have a heart. He was like 99% likely to have a heart disease
or something like that. And like
anytime he touched his chest, you'd be like,
I was like, his heart condition.
Yeah. Like, oh, my heart condition. Yeah.
And then Uma Thurman
apparently had one too.
I also have one.
Yeah. And so then she's like out of breath at one point. You're like, oh no, her heart condition. Yeah. That was funny.
Because they made such a big deal about it.
I know, they did.
And I was like, oh my gosh, at what point is one of them going to have like a heart attack? And it never happened.
Neither of them.
It never happened.
Never. Yeah.
It just was doing a lot without doing anything, in my opinion.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Can we talk about his brother?
Yes.
So, in the movie, Vincent, Ethan Hawke's character, when he's born and you find out that he's like, his life expectancy is 30.2, then his dad's name is Anton, and the mom is like, oh, let's name him Anton. But when he finds out that the kid's gonna die at like the age of 30, he's like, let's call him Vincent Anton. And then when they actually genetically engineer their second child, they name that child Anton. And so they do this like visual thing where they show like how tall was Vincent at the age of 10, and then Anton at the age of 8 is like taller than Vincent was at the age of 10. So to really show like, yeah, Anton is better than him. And then they do this whole swimming out into the ocean like to play chicken thing, which I will admit, kind of stupid.
Yes.
At the end of the movie.
Yes. Like what are they doing?
But anyway, so they have this relationship, and so like Vincent is trying to overcome the limitations that were told that he had, from day one of life. And then he like leaves home, and then he does all this stuff with Jude Law. He gets into the space program, yada, yada, yada. Then somebody gets murdered, and then there's two detectives assigned to the case, and one of them, we don't know it the whole time until like close to the end of the movie that one of them was actually his brother Anton. And what did you think of that twist, first off?
I was just like, okay.
Fair enough. I thought it was a pretty good twist the first time I watched it. I was like, oh, it's his brother. Oh, wow. Yeah.
I just never cared about the brother enough to care that it was him. I was
I was just kind of a nice little twist. I don't know.
Sure.
But then they decide to play chicken again at the end, and they swim out into the ocean like in the middle of the night, and like Anton can't quite keep up with Vincent, and Vincent being, you know, the invalid of the two of them, and Vincent's like, or Anton says, we gotta go back, and Vincent says, we're almost to the other side, and he's like, how are you doing this? He's like, I never saved my energy for the swim back, but then it's like, well, but then how do you make it back? I guess the point is that like he could just swim all the way to the other side if he needed to, but it's like, how, because Anton starts to almost drown, and it's like, okay, well, if Vincent is also kind of like supposed to be reaching his limit, how is he able to save Anton?
But he also did that when they were kids.
And he did it when they were kids too, yeah.
But that's what I'm like, why is the brother shook? I'm like, he saved you when you were a kid too. Like, at this point, you should just, like, I just don't understand. That's what I don't understand. I don't understand where the tension came between the two, because when we see them as kids, it's not very clear that they are like, I mean, yes, they're like competitive in that they were, you know, swimming or whatever.
Brothers.
But that's like a, you know, a typical child thing is to, you know, compete or whatever. Like, I didn't get the sense that like they hated each other.
They don't hate each other.
But that's what the ending made it seem like. It made it like it made it seem like the brother was like upset with Ethan Hawke, and like
he was.
You shouldn't be here. Like, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't, like, whatever. And I'm like, since when do you hate him?
Well, he left home, and both of their parents died thinking that Vincent was dead, thinking that Ethan Hawke's character was dead. And who had to pick up the pieces when they died? Anton did. So I'm sure there's some resentment there.
Pick up what pieces? What pieces?
Burying their parents.
Okay, sure, but like...
And dealing with the emotional distress of, like, staying home, and they're like, oh, Vincent left. You know, like, Anton was left with the mess, and Vincent just escaped, and he's like, I'm going to go to space.
But at the age in which Vincent left, he would have been out of the house too. So it's not like he was a child living with the parents, and the parents were like...
I mean, they cast a very old actor as like teenage Vincent. I mean, the guy couldn't have been like 2 years younger than Ethan Hawke at that point, you know, but I think he was supposed to be a teenager. I think they're both supposed to be teenagers, and he's 2 years older than Anton. So
I guess, I don't know. It just like,
I think the reason they casted them as teenagers was specifically so that when we saw teen Anton, it was a different actor than adult Anton. So we didn't know that it was his brother for the whole movie, just so that they could have that twist at the end.
Got you. I just feel like there wasn't enough time spent for me to understand the relationship between Vincent and Anton to care at the end when it's like, it's his brother. I was like, cool, whatever.
Well, I'll say that watching this in ninth grade biology class, we didn't have enough time to sit and watch it in one sitting.
Right.
So we had to wait like, I don't know, a week or something to continue the movie.
Yeah.
And so for me, it just made it very interesting because I had a lot to ponder over the course of a week. And then I come back and it's like, oh, that's his brother. You know?
I mean, I feel like when we were kids, anything shocked us.
I was 15.
Exactly.
Half of my life ago. Goodness.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, I thought it was entertaining because I was cracking up at it, but
well,
I don't think it was a great movie.
I think it was the first time that I appreciated biology because I hated biology when I was in high school.
What? There was no lessons of how biology actually worked in this movie. Like,
but it presented ideas a center, like it presented ideas in a
about genetics
in a provocative, thought-provoking way that I was like, oh, this really interesting movie right now that I am watching in this class that I do not like was only possible due to the class that I do not like. And that made me appreciate it a little bit more.
I learned 0 from this movie.
Well, you weren't 15 in biology class when you watched this movie. We have master's degrees.
Yeah, but I'm no expert in biology.
I mean, me neither. But okay, anyway. You want me to get into the facts?
Sure. I forgot that they were facts.
Yeah. So if you didn't know by now, the title of the movie Gattaca uses G-A-T and C as in the names of like the DNA nucleotides or whatever. Guanine, adenine, thymine.
Did they even mention that in the movie?
Cytosine. They don't mention that in the movie. They're not supposed. It's a neat little on the nose reference for people that know their biology. Ooh.
I think they do, because when Uma Thurman prints out his.
Well, you see it, but you
don't
see that his genetic code or whatever when she gets his DNA printed out or whatever. Yeah. But
which that seems like such a violation.
It is, but they don't make a point of being like, oh, that's why it's called Gattaca. No, it's like they just call. The space program is just called Gattaca.
Can you imagine if I came to you and said, hey, I took that strand of hair on your pillow and I got your DNA printed and we are a match. We can be in a relationship.
I found out that you are going to die in 2 years. So we can't be together.
Oh, no! That'd be so sad.
That's basically what would have happened to Ethan Hawke if she had gotten his real DNA.
Oh my god! Oh, and then there's this whole. Oh my god! It's so cringy.
Okay, wait.
It's so cringy.
On the beach.
I don't even remember.
What are you gonna say?
Okay, I'm talking about like this whole idea of like he's like, or she like pulls her hair out. She's like, "You can check me if you want." And he's like, "I don't need to."
Yeah. No, I was thinking about how, because every morning before he goes to work, he like sheds himself of any little like excess skin or excess hairs and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then he goes on a date with Uma Thurman and stays the night. So then he like, he's like, oh no, I stayed the night, and he goes down to the beach and like grabs a rock and just starts scrubbing himself naked.
I'm like, can't she see you?
At dawn, yeah, it's that's like, all right, man.
There's a lot of cringe parts, in this movie.
Yeah,
like what is he doing? What are they doing?
Yeah.
There's a part where he doesn't have he has to like take out his contacts, which he did in such a weird way that like is like impossible.
It's not impossible. I've done it before.
I do not believe you.
I have taken my contact. Like
I need you to.
He did it with one hand. He did it like he put like middle finger on one eye, thumb on the other eye, and he did kind of this like swiping motion towards his nose, and he took both of them out. And I have done that successfully once. When I did it, I was like, hey, just like Ethan Hawke and Gattaca.
Until I see you do that again, I refuse to believe it.
All right.
Impossible. Anyway.
Go do it right now. I'm going to waste 2 contact lenses, but it would be worth it.
No. He, like, takes out his contacts because he's about to be, like, checked by the police or whatever, and he's on a date with Uma Thurman, and they get away. The police are like, you're good. Go ahead. And Uma Thurman, like, pulls over to the side of the road, which I don't know why she didn't pull over to the other side of the road, which made it safer for them to get to the whatever she was trying to look at.
Yeah, that part was kind of weird.
So it's like a busy like highway, and she pulls onto the furthest side of the road from where she's trying to go.
Yeah, they need to hop the fence on the right side, so she pulls
over on the left. Yeah, gets out, runs across the street in the middle of highway traffic, and is like, come follow me.
Yeah,
and
she's like, come on, we're gonna miss it.
I know, and he can't see
anything.
Thing.
Yeah, he's not wearing his contacts.
And I'm like, you idiot. I'm like, do not do this. Like, why are we even in this situation? Why are we here? Why are we doing all this? It just made no sense to me.
It was fun.
It was dumb.
See, so much to talk about in this movie.
Oh my gosh. I said it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I didn't get the seriousness of it.
That's fine. All right, so we got the GATC thing down on the on that there Gattaca. Another fun fact: Jude Law's character, whose real name is Jerome Morrow, right? He wants to be called by his middle name, Eugene. Wait a minute. Eugenics. Yeah.
Dumb.
So there's that.
It's just too silly. Like, the more you tell me, the more I'm like, insane.
All right. Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke did become a couple after filming this movie.
And had Maya Hawke.
They got married in 1998 and had 2 children and then divorced in 2005. Now, when this movie was first released in theaters, there was a marketing campaign done to advertise for people to call and have their children genetically engineered. Well, thousands of people called wanting to have their offspring genetically engineered, which is not a service that they could provide. So, kind of a dumb marketing campaign to
yeah, that
I think it was like a shock value kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of an oopsie on the marketing department, I feel like.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
And also kind of scary that many people were like, yes.
Yeah, right.
I want a designer baby.
Right. I already mentioned the ID photo of Jerome is a digitally morphed version of the faces of Ethan Hawke and Jude Law. Okay, I thought this was a little ridiculous. This movie was by NASA scientists voted to be the most accurate science fiction film ever made.
Stop. That is such a lie. No. Accurate. There was no science. There was no science.
It just, that's what the IMDb trivia said. And that
is false. You need to verify that. Because there was no actual science in this movie.
I mean, they had DNA.
Oh, well then Jurassic Park should be up there, you know?
Right. Well, no, that's
Jurassic Park had more science than this.
That is not a scientifically accurate film, though. This is scientifically accurate science fiction film, specifically. So,
but what science was even in it to be accurate?
It's fictional, but it's possible. It's an alternate future of science.
Eugenics is possible, so that makes it the most scientifically accurate.
Yes, because it's a science fiction movie. So Star Wars, that's science fiction, but is any of that stuff possible? No. This science fiction, is it possible? Yeah. And NASA took notice and they said, hey guys, we need to take a vote.
Stop! Stop! I'm dead. There's no way.
That's what it said.
I refuse.
That's what it said.
NASA, whoever determined that, fire them. Fire them.
All right, two other little pieces of trivia here. They refer to the investigators in the movie as Hoovers, FBI agents as Hoovers, which is a J. Edgar Hoover reference, the founder of the FBI, but also a clever reference to the fact that these guys are out here vacuuming up looking for DNA everywhere that they can get it, and Hoover is another word for vacuum.
Yeah.
So another one of the movies writing having a little bit of fun creating its own key terms like degenerates. Hoovers and degenerates.
I will never get over Ethan Hawke saying that.
Yeah, he said it in a super serious way. When he was admitting to Uma Thurman that he was an invalid, he was like, oh my God. She was like, you're a godchild? And he was like, yes, I'm a godchild. I'm a degenerate, whatever you want to call it.
No, even before that, because didn't he just say the terminology to explain? I think
he
narrated. Yeah, I think he narrated.
Oh yeah, he did narrate.
Yeah, and that he lost me. I was dying. I was like, what? Did he really just say that?
Yeah. You degenerate. Like, nobody, I swear to God, nobody's calling anybody a degenerate.
It's just so funny.
It's too sci-fi of a slur, you know, to call somebody.
It's just dumb.
Like, nobody would say it, right? It's too nerdy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last piece of trivia here is that the original ending of the movie was meant to show images of Einstein, Lincoln, JFK, and others, and state that if genetic screening were a real thing, that these guys would have never been born, and each picture of them was going to outline what each of their genetic flaws were. So, like, Einstein apparently had dyslexia, Lincoln had Marfan's syndrome, and Kennedy had Addison's disease. So it was kind of ending with this statement that you, the viewer, wouldn't have existed either if genetic screening existed. And yeah, they decided to cut that ending because test audiences found the idea of them being genetically inferior uncomfortable. So they took that out of the movie. Mm. And those are all my facts.
Wow.
Yep. Gattaca. Which we now own because it was like,
oh, yeah.
Spend one more dollar and you'll own the movie. I was like, yeah, we may as well.
Gosh. I'd come back to it.
Okay.
Just to laugh at it.
Okay. You asked me, like, are you ever going to want to watch it again? I went, yeah.
Okay. Shall we do assignments?
Let's do it.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Mine is pretty simple. I'm going to give you something. It's pretty short, quick, and easy to watch. It's called Kung Fury. You ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Great. It's like 32 minutes on YouTube, but there's like a whole story. And I think I'm not going to promise anything. I keep saying, oh, you might enjoy it, and then you hate it. So I'm not promising anything, but it's short and I think it's fun. And I think there's a lot to talk about. So Kung Fury.
Okay. All right. I'd been debating whether or not. Well, okay. First of all, we watched all of those Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh, we did do that in between episodes, I think.
Right. And I had been debating about a movie. Those movies reminded me of a movie, and I was debating about whether or not to give it to you now because it could also be a spooky swap. But I think I want to give it to you now. And that movie is Nope. And you're probably like, what does that have to do with Planet of the Apes? But when you watch it, you'll find out. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So next week we will have Kung Fury and Nope. Mm-hmm. I think that'll be a good matchup. Yeah, that works. Cool. I think that works quite well. Yeah, haven't seen Nope. So.
Nice. I am actually excited to watch it because I watched it on a plane.
You did watch it on a plane.
And it was really hard to see.
I caught parts of it, but couldn't follow.
Yeah.
I saw kind of like a big climactic looking part, but I had zero context, so I'd be interested to watch the whole movie.
Got you.
All right, cool. Join us for that next week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of movies we thought were great that were actually kind of really serious. I'm tired. It's late. Movies we thought were great but were actually really silly and not that good. Kind of a mess. But I stand that I think Gattaca was the better of the two movies, so I think I win. And not that it's a competition, but I won.
You win because it wasn't problematic, at least.
Touche.
And that was
eugenics is problematic, but it was
pointing out the problematic.
It took a non-problematic stance on the part of the filmmakers.
Exactly.
Hardball was made problematic.
Yeah.
Boom. I win. All right. We'll catch you next time, and we'll see who wins then.
Wow.
See you then. Have a great week. Bye.